Broadcasting from USA Swimming's headquarters at the Carolyn Dirks Building in Colorado Springs, Colorado, it's time for Kick Set. Join three-time Olympian Elizabeth Beisel and U.S. National Team Director of Performance Matt Barbini as they host members from the USA Swimming community, ranging from age group to Olympic levels of the sport.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kick Set podcast. My name is Matt Barbini. I'm the National Team Director of Performance at USA Swimming. Joining me, as always, one of our two Olympians for the day, Elizabeth Beisel. How are you? Ready to head to Indy?
I know. I had we're recording this on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then I leave on Thursday morning. So then trials start Saturday. So it's like whirlwind. It's crazy. But are you there yet, Barbie?
We're there. No, I am not there. I was there last weekend for the test event.
How's the pool look?
Oh my God. It's jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
It is, the scale of it is astounding. Like, it's just the deck of the competition pool is just huge. And the scale of the venue and everything is scaled up to meet it. And so, like, the signage is huge, the video boards are huge, everything in there is just big. And it really is stunning. I saw a little bit of the technical elements of it while I was there, and it's incredible. It is unlike really anything I think we've seen in a pool. I think the closest thing you can compare it to would be the World Championships in the soccer stadium in Kazan in 2015, just on like a size wise. Yeah. But it's much better done than that. And so it really is pretty jaw-dropping. Get excited, everybody.
If somebody just listened to that and isn't pulling up usaswimming.org to get tickets, what are you doing? Like,
that's right, man.
It's going to be incredible. And what our guest, who Barbini, I always let you embarrass them, is going to be such an integral part for those of you that can't be there, that are viewing from home.
Yeah, so we are fortunate enough to have Rowdy Gaines joining us again, three-time Olympic gold medalist. Everybody knows the voice of NBC, swimming on NBC, and will be, of course, calling trials. Most importantly, Beisel, I think he's our only three-time guest on the Kick Set podcast. So this is.
Can you blame us?
No, we're striking new ground here. Rowdy, thanks for making a few minutes in what is a very busy couple of weeks.
Thank you, Matt, Elizabeth. You know how much I love you guys, and I'm really honored to be with you. I really mean that. I love you guys' work, and I listen all the time, and I love being on with you.
We love
Thank
you.
you. I want to start with trials just in general. You've been through many cycles of this at this point, from as an athlete and as a broadcaster. What excites you the most in these days leading into this meet?
Well, I think Elizabeth can certainly attest to this, and so can you in a way, Matt. I mean, it's the stress, it's the intensity that I'm stressed, and I'm not even swimming, and it's because I know what these kids, and I call them kids now, but I know what these athletes are going through right now, just the butterflies and trying to find ways to relax. And it's sort of a two-edged sword, meaning it's great in a way because it's so cool and there's going to be so much drama and the peaks and valleys of this, but it's also heartbreaking in a way because, unfortunately, the Olympics is the pinnacle of success for us. We don't have anything above that. And there's not anything really even close. I mean, the World Championships, yes, but it doesn't hold a candle to the Olympics. So for me, I'm right now, a couple of days out, I'm nervous. I'm not nervous about the broadcast. I'm just nervous about the swimming, and feeling for the kids, I guess.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest parts about trials, and Barbini, you live in this area, is the warm up and warm down, because that's where everybody goes after the race, regardless of your performance. And it's where the third place finishers are warming down with the first and second place finishers. And it's such, like you said, Rowdy, it's such like a peak and valley of emotions. And it's like the happiest, saddest, happiest meet like that you can go to. But Rowdy, I want to ask, you were lucky enough to kind of see the pool while it was being built. What was that like? Is there a favorite part of the pool that you saw that you were like most excited for to be finished?
It, I heard you guys were, talking before I came on, and Matt's right. It is. I guess the best word I can describe it is it's magical. It is just unbelievable. This is my 11th straight Olympics that I've been
11.
to.
Wait, hold on. Is that as broadcaster
Yeah.
or as athlete and broadcaster?
Wait a second. Hang on. I got a 5, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Yeah. So this is number 11, trials and Olympics. So athlete 84 and 88, 82 is trials, but we didn't go
Yeah.
any. And then broadcaster 92 on. So
That's unreal, Rowdy.
I know.
That's incredible in the best way.
And it's so funny because if you do the math, I'm only 43, so I
Can
started
you believe
early,
it?
right?
Started when he was just 2 years old.
Yeah, right. But it was really just unbelievable. And I guess the coolest thing for me is to have those bleachers on the other side where the athletes and coaches have great seats, man. They're right there on top of the action. So you're not like putting them here and there like we did in Omaha. I think the seating is going to be electric over there because I think the kids will get into it too. But just the monstrosity of it all. I mean, I've never seen anything like this, pointing out how many I've been to. I've never seen anything. And yeah, Kazan and of course Budapest, they're amazing facilities. Tokyo was unbelievable, but nothing like this. I mean, there's like apples and oranges. So it's going to be really cool.
Before we get into, because I do want to talk a little bit about like these trials in particular, but where do you rank trials in terms of like the most exciting meets, the most difficult meets? Like when you think about trials and the flow, because you do world championships, you do the Olympics, like, and you've competed obviously at basically every meet there is. Like where does trials fall kind of in your ranking of meets?
Well, I will say that for me personally, I think there's two views. For me personally, without a doubt, the most intense, stressful meet I've ever been to in my life. Way more than the Olympics, way more. Because I was sort of at the end of my career in '84, and I really shouldn't have made the team. I didn't. And in the event that I had the world record, and I got 7th in that. And then I only had one more shot in the 100, and I got 2nd in that. So I barely made the team individually in that event. So for me, it was just like I was hanging on by a thin thread emotionally. It was just, it's so stressful for these kids, and it's so stressful, and it never has stopped. Now, I only swam in front of 15 people, not 15,000 people, and half of those were my family. So it was a little bit different, but I think Elizabeth can tell you even more because of the more recent. If it was that intense for me with nobody there, I can't imagine what it's going to be like here, and then what it was like for Elizabeth when she swam, in front of 15,000 people every night. I just, adding that on top of the stress of trying to make an Olympic team is just astounding to me.
I think that's also, I mean, that's an awesome point because, well, one, that just means the sport is growing, which is what we want.
Mhm.
But it's also, as soon as you were talking about swimming in front of that many people, and we're going for, what is it, 30,000?
Record, yeah.
Yeah, that's an unreal amount of people. But I think that's why trials, and I think you guys would agree with me on this, is why we don't really see many best times at trials because
Right.
there's so much of that stress. Like it is literally about getting first or second or top 6, whatever it is. And I can't even say that concretely, because that doesn't actually mean that you make the team. There's this massive process that we won't get into. But regardless, it is so stressful because no one ever in the history of swimming has ever swum in an NFL stadium. And that alone already creates this like bubble of pressure. And then it's the Olympic trials and it's once every 4 years and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I think about it and I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. Like I think about the athletes right now and
Me
I
too.
truly, right, Rowdy,
Right.
I truly don't know how I did it.
Blur. It was a
And
blur.
I have so much respect for the athletes, especially those that were competing in kind of like the COVID year, 20 to 2021.
Yeah.
But now that we're on the topic of trials, Rowdy, I would love to know your two top races, one for the women and one for the men that's coming up next week.
Well, I'm certainly biased.
Are you going to say the 100 free?
I mean, are
As
you
you
going to say the
always
4 IM, Basil? Because I mean, I think we can.
I mean,
Right.
This cuts all sorts of ways.
is there
Yeah.
another? I'm trying to think. Are there any other events besides the 100 freestyle?
None that are relevant, Rowdy. You
There's a
only
bit-
show up for NBC that one day.
There's a 50.
100 free, biased aside, because I think it's partly because there's a little bit of unknown, but also because the potential is so great for the men. You know, is Jack Alexi going to be able to follow up what he did last year? Caleb, you know, this comeback of his, or I shouldn't say comeback, but you know, the ability to be able to do what Caleb did 3 years ago. This kid from Notre Dame, Giuliano. I mean, is he? I mean, we don't know for sure, you know. And there's 4 or 5 others I'm leaving out, but Ryan Held. I mean, there's a lot of others, but I mean, I can't wait for the men's 100 freestyle. It's going to be really cool. And that will set us up well, too, to kind of determine and get a feel for relays. Because to me, a country's strength is dictated on relays in many ways. And because we have 7 of them now, I think the 100 free, both for the men and women, obviously, but I'm just thinking the men's side, because the women's side is your event, Elizabeth. Maybe and the shorter one, the 200 back. I mean, it's just insane. The 100 back and 200 back for women is, to me, just it's going to be so heartbreaking because, and I'm not going to say a name, but there's going to be a big name that might have been an Olympian or might have been on the world championship team last summer, a big name not make it. You know, it's just, it's going to happen.
Yep.
It has to happen. You know, and that's going to be really heartbreaking, you know, and that's going to happen in every race. I get it. But because your women's 200 backstroke, the 6th place finisher could probably win a medal at the Olympics. That's how
Literally.
that,
Yeah.
right.
We had 5 of the top 10 in the world last year.
It's ridiculous.
What? Yeah.
What? So yeah, those 2 are the ones that I'm kind of excited for, but nervous for in a way, you know, because, you know, Australia is talking a lot of smack right now. And of course, I kind of put my 2 cents in out of context, of course, but
your 2 cents were very politically correct and maybe were a little misconstrued there, Rowdy.
absolutely, totally
Yeah.
taken out of context. That clickbait really worked well there. So
yeah, we don't hate them.
No.
That's not what anybody's.
Oh God, we love them.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Like-
We've talked about that on here a bunch of times. Like my counterpart with them is the nicest person, and it drives me crazy. Like I just wish you were easier
I
to
know.
dislike.
Like I wish you were evil.
Yeah, like,
But you're all fantastic
God,
people.
you're such good hangs.
And they have their trials right now, and it's
Right
been like
now.
really cool to
know.
watch that, and like stoked for how well they're swimming.
we
Yeah.
actually cross over, don't we? Like
Yeah,
a
a
couple
little bit.
days when we
I think
started.
our first day is their last day.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 It's interesting too, because even their trials, it's like that's what makes our meet so different, is that like their trials, like their best kids in most events will make the final. You know, and we have events where like we have some really good athletes. Like one of the scenarios that could come up, Rowdy, that could lead to what you just said, where a big superstar doesn't make the team, could be that they slip up in semifinals and don't get into the final. I think the depth in some events is like people need to be careful in that semi to make sure they're not compromising, trying to be a little too cute with energy management, and need to make sure they get into that semi.
That's a great point, Matt, because this is the only meet where everybody, now Elizabeth back in 12 didn't have to taper as much, but I mean, you were pretty much a shoo-in, and Katie won't have to do it here. But other than that, dude, man, you're taking a big risk if you don't come in ready to swim at your very best. Because it's just not for the faint of heart. Ryan Murphy, he should win, but there's 2 or 3 guys out there that these guys have to be ready. And so you're right. You've got to be ready for the semis for sure, because we're just too deep.
Yeah. Rowdy, I'm kind of on the production side, but I've only been in it for a few years. You've been doing this for much longer time. What does a typical day look like when you are in production meetings, and we're not just broadcasting finals, but also prelims? Like, can you walk all of our viewers through a day in the life of Rowdy Gaines at Olympic trials? Because I know it's not like, oh, a soft, nice, warm morning, I get a swim, and then I broadcast finals. Like, it is so much more than that. So give all the details.
Well, you're going to be with me for 9 straight days.
Yeah, I will. So tell me what my schedule is going to be like,
right.
Rowdy.
You're just
really
doing
what I'm
like a pre-production meeting here.
When I say
log off.
So what have you heard?
Our schedule.
Our schedule, yes.
Right. Well, I'm going to do a little swim clinic every other day for USA Swimming in the morning. That starts at 6:30 every morning. So we do that. We have a little breakfast for our donors, and then go right into a production meeting at 8:30 for the 11 o'clock prelims. We're on prelims, from 11 to 1-ish, something like that. And then we have to do some fixes just in case we really screw up royally, because it's going to be reshown later on it live. The prelims are live, but they're going to be reshown later on in the evening, right before finals. That will go from like 1 to 2, and then we have a little break. Although most of us, as Elizabeth knows, we just stay at the truck and start working on finals. Our production meeting starts at 4 for the finals. So there is that little 2 hours of trying to decompress a little bit. And then, although I have an autograph session that first day from 2 to 3, so that'll be a little less. And then 4 to 8 is production meeting, rehearsal, on camera, whatever we need to do in that 4-hour period. Everybody's all in. And then we're on from 8 to 9:30-ish, 10 o'clock every night. And then we're done. Right, Elizabeth? Do we have anything else?
9 days.
Yeah.
It's a marathon.
Yeah.
Wait, Rowdy, can you tell the story about in Tokyo, how you got it's actually not even a story, it's just like a funny thing, how you got that like mattress sponsorship? Do you remember that?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Like the days are that long. Like Rowdy literally had mattresses shipped to the truck where we would do all of our meetings. So in between prelims and finals, we could take like a 30-minute nap.
Right.
Nice.
Like it's a grind.
We put them in the edit truck. Remember? We did our editing in there, and Dan and I put these 2 beds, and we all kind of rotated to have the ability. And really, they were on the floor. They're basically just mattresses on the floor, but they were made out of cardboard. Remember, that was the same thing that they had. Village. It was the Olympic sponsor. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but they were the Olympic sponsor back then, and the beds were made out of cardboard. They were actually very comfortable, really comfortable. But Yeah, it's, people are walking in, we try to black out curtains. I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this before, where it's a lot more intense than, it's not digging ditches, I mean, it's first world problems, Elizabeth,
It
because
is. You're right. Very fair.
we have this bunker-like mentality for 9 days where we're really family, and our production is tough. It's not for the faint of heart. You don't want to make mistakes, but we're all in this together, and that's the beautiful thing about it. And I tell you the truth, when it's all done, I really miss it. You know, I I can't wait till it's done, but
Yeah.
at the end, I think, oh man, I really miss that camaraderie that we have in the compound, because there's so many people that are working together to make this really beautiful for people to watch.
Yeah.
Does it get so the first days, at least from our end, what tends to happen is the first day is like there's a lot of chaos, for lack of a better word. It's just like, we didn't know that that sight line was going to be messed up, and we didn't know that everybody in the second row was going to stand up and do a cheer right as the race was about to start. So, like, does that stuff smooth out through the meet, or is it just something new every day for you guys on the
Oh, it
production
definitely,
side?
yeah, it smooths out. It definitely, once you get into a routine, it's basically routine. Once you get into a routine, it really does become a fairly well-oiled machine. Now, there are lots of surprises maybe in the pool, that are taken aback, but as far as the production, wouldn't you say, Elizabeth, once we get going, it really, I can't think of too many surprises that throw us for a loop. I mean, we're even by the end, we're even joking around, pulling
Yeah.
pranks
Like
on.
it's so much lighter because we're in that groove.
Yeah,
No, I agree.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, Rowdy, for you, whether it was while you were an athlete or now as the voice of swimming, what is one of your most favorite trials moments?
Oh,
I guess you could do one for each. I think that's fair. Like
man.
one as an athlete and one as a broadcaster.
Well, I mean, I have heartbreaking ones I can name for sure.
Yeah.
Craig Beardsley in 1984 is the biggest one for me. When he didn't make the team, man, would have won the gold medal by 2 seconds in
Right.
1980, and gets third. And, there have been a lot of thirds, but I think my favorite, uh, gosh dang, I think Jeff Rouse in 96 was, I know I'm taking you guys back, sorry. 96, Jeff Rouse making that team was so awesome. And having Cullen Jones make it for the first time was really, really cool. Anthony Irvin making it in 2016 was, well, your teammate, Elizabeth. Well, I'm saying more than one, but yeah, there are, Margaret Holzer for me was an amazing moment. And then again for me, because I know Margaret's so sweet, such a good person, but her making the team was really awesome as well. And that's the thing about it, if you think about it, guys. I mean, I don't know of a jerk swimmer. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be 1,000 kids there. I'm sure there are jerks there, but everybody's so nice, and they've always been very supportive of, so many different things to do with the sport. And that's why you really want everybody to make it, because obviously you develop a friendship with certain athletes, but boy, it's a thrill when they do make it, isn't it?
There is in this trials in particular, there's a decent amount of what you either call milestones or legacy type performances here. Um, what are some of those, like people like Ledecky going for number 4, or what Murphy's trying to do, or Dressel's trying to do? How do you kind of view those performances at a trials? Like, does that add extra pressure, you think, for those athletes, or is that just, or is it actually easier for the veterans because they've been there before?
Uh, that's a that's a question for Elizabeth.
That's true. That probably is a question for us. Yeah.
What?
So I had 80, but that meet didn't really, we had a trials in 1980.
Yeah.
But we had already announced the boycott, so it didn't count. So 84, obviously, and then 88, I had started swimming about 3 months before those trials. I had taken off for 3.5 years, so it was more just a lark going to those. So I wasn't nervous at all. So I've never had that pressure of repeating like a Katie Ledecky and so many other kids, Murph or somebody like that. So Elizabeth, the question is, does it get easier or harder? I'm thinking it gets harder, but in some ways I don't know. Yeah, you would know best.
Yeah. I answer harder immediately. Like my third trials versus my first trials, like completely different experience.
Because you were a kid.
Yeah. And like,
First when you were a kid.
for sure. Like the first trials was 15 and like,
Right.
yeah, maybe I was expected to make the team, but it's your first. So like everything's exciting. And like, you don't have, I was kind of like, oh, I'm only 15. So if I don't make it, I have the next one. But third trials was just like, oh my God. And pressure that I put on myself and maybe pressure that I felt others maybe had put on me where it's like, oh, I made it when I was 15. I made it when I was 19. I better make it when I'm 23.
Right.
And I think, this is one thing that I noticed in trials in 21 was the difference of kind of celebration after making the team from the rookies, like first timers, and veterans, like third or fourth timers. Rookies, it is pure joy. It is joy in its purest form. It's a dream come true moment. For the veterans, it is pure like exhale, like relief. They are like, oh, thank God that's over. So I think like for the viewers that are going to be tuning in and listening to Rowdy and sometimes myself on broadcast, is like, tune into what the athletes' celebrations look like and their reactions after their race, because I guarantee you, if it's a first timer, it's the happiest moment that you've ever seen. And if it's a veteran, it's the most relieving moment you've ever seen.
That's what I was going to say about the veterans. And when I made it in 84, again, finishing second, it was much more than pure joy. It was just total relief. Like,
yes.
Oh, thank goodness I made it. It's like, you can't believe the bump. It's like this big balloon and it just pops and it goes, shh.
Yeah.
And
then you can like go to the Olympics and enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Barbini, do you agree from like what you?
Oh, completely. I think for some people, when you start talking about that post high school, you've already made it, like it could be a career ender or a career extender, whether you make it or not. And I always think about Missy in 16 when we talk about this, where like she makes it in the 2 free and there was no joy really at all there. That's one of the more joyful people you'll ever meet. And that was just pure relief because that meet had not gone well and it just started to pile up. And there's just so much external pressure on an athlete with a profile that big, that to finally make it, it was just like, that's a relief. But I think that's also part of it is part of why we swim well at the Olympics after that, because you probably release a lot of that, like that balloon deflating, like Rowdy just said, it seems to not inflate all the way back up to what at the games, at least from like the outside or the inside, but not the pool side. Like from seeing people, they seem much more nervous at trials than they do at the games. And that seems to be pretty much across the board. But the people that make it that don't expect to, it's very fun. And I talk about this all the time, just when we talk about our Olympic team, it's really fun to try to get to the top. It's actually not that much fun to try to stay there. And I think in a lot of ways, where we are as a country competitively right now, it's a little more fun to be the underdog and chase. And we've been the favorite for a long time.
Yeah.
No question about it. I was so much happier as the chaser instead of the chasee. I stopped enjoying the sport, which I came back around and started enjoying it at the end. But once I became the chasee, it just changed the attitude I had, and it shouldn't have. And I learned later on, but boy, it was really tough. You're right. So much harder.
Yeah. Actually, this was something that I didn't know. I didn't know, Rowdy, that at a point in time you didn't love the sport. Was that after your last Olympics? Like, how did you get through that? Because you're
So
somebody that swims every single day. Like, if those of you that are listening don't know that, like, Rowdy is the biggest swim fan ever, but like also swimmer. Like, he still swims every day. You
every day.
love the sport. But
Not
it's
much.
surprising to me that wasn't the case for a little bit.
Yeah. So really I struggled in not to talk too much about the old days, but I struggled after 83 because I had not performed well. Our big meet in 80, in the odd years was the Pan American Games. That was like, next to the World Championships, huge for us. So and I didn't swim well there. And I just got down on the dumps, and back then I think, we didn't talk about mental health, but it was tough, but I had great people around me. I had an amazing coach, Richard Quick, my family, friends, people that, when you do suffer those emotional, mental breaks, that you really need to rely on the people that love you and care for you the most. And I did, and I got out of it and had a thrilling summer in 1984. And but when it was over with in 84, I was like, okay, I'm done. It's like when you stopped after what, 17?
Yeah, I was like hard stop after 17.
So but you stayed in shape because you work out so much, but did you like want to get right back in the water when you were done?
No, God, no. Yeah. I think if there's somebody that says yes to that, like,
Right.
I would love to meet them. I haven't met anybody like it yet, but
I think
yeah.
that person that
like
says yes to that is like the one that retirement didn't stick.
Right.
Like they're
Exactly.
the ones that's like
Right,
back at the meet 6 months later.
Yeah.
But then you realize, the sport has done so much for me. I was going down, I told you guys, I didn't start until later on. I started when I was 17, but right before I started, I was going down I don't want to say a dark path, but it was a path that could have led to darkness, so swimming in a real sense saved my life. So, I just, as Elizabeth said, I really love swimming. I don't know half as much about swimming as Elizabeth does. She knows, so she's so knowledgeable. Phelps, Michael's going to be in the booth with us.
Yeah.
So knowledgeable, so great at analytics. But I will argue that nobody loves swimming more than me.
I would agree.
I really love it, and I swim every day. I love talking about swimming. I love talking about 6 and under swimming and 60 and over swimming. It doesn't matter. I'll talk masters or country club. It doesn't matter. I just love swimming because it gave me so much in my life.
Well, that comes through.
Yeah, the sport is so lucky.
Broadcast. So yeah, that's evident. Basel, should we jump into some social kick?
Let's do a little social kick.
All right. So these are our listener and social media follower generated questions.
All right.
So this is going to be an easy one. So what's that?
You're not going to ask me the mean ones, are you?
Oh yeah, no. This is we're going to ask about these. We're just going to pull comments from swimming websites and read them to you. You can respond.
There's some good ones. I don't read them, but I get texts from friends of mine and said, "Oh, you should see what this guy wrote. Oh, my God. He pounded you," and I love it. I think it's really funny because I think of Jimmy Kimmel and his mean tweets. If you've ever seen that, he'll get a celebrity.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Hilarious.
And he has them like read them, and it's the most like ridiculous stuff. You're like,
oh
what?
yeah.
So I love the trolls. They're wonderful. They're great.
They're just jealous they're not you, Rowdy.
That's right. Everybody can do it better till you have to do it.
100%. But
Doesn't
keyboard
bother me.
warriors, man.
That's right. All right. So the first one, this is from Misha S. What is your favorite distance to swim? We've kind of touched
Well,
this one already, but
question, because my favorite distance to swim early in my career was a 200 freestyle. I had the world record in that for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. So I love the 200 free long course. It wasn't until later, yeah, like 83, that I thought, oh man, that's too long. I'm hanging on. So it ended up being the 100, but for a long time in my career, it was the 200. That's the one that really got me a scholarship to college, was the 200 freestyle.
all right. Good question, Misha.
Yeah.
This one is from our friends at One America. What has been your favorite Olympic Games host city? That's a good one.
That's a good question. I would say, oh, man, I'm gonna make some city mad, I'm sure, but they were all great one way or the other. Any way you pick it, it was great. I mean, for me, Beijing was the greatest because of Michael, right? And that perfect storm, that 8 for 8, that was the coolest. But the greatest city was Barcelona in '92. It was a beautiful city, and I just loved the way that Olympics looked. London, I thought, might have done the best job logistically. Again, that's from the broadcast side. LA is LA. I'm always going to put LA at the very top, but it was different because when you're an athlete, Elizabeth, it's not like you're going to explore anything. You
Right.
go
At
from
all.
the
You
village.
could be in the middle of nowhere and you wouldn't know.
It's a dorm, a bus, and a pool.
It's
So
3 things.
Yeah,
Yep.
I guess a dining hall too, but
Yeah, the dining hall, but for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah. So anyway, that's probably mine. And Sydney was great because everybody loves swimming down there.
Yeah.
Sydney was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep. Yep. All right. This is from Alex S. This is a good one. Does your voice get sore during these long meets?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I get a little crackly. At NC2A's, Elizabeth, I thought I was going to have to call you at the men's.
I know.
meet.
Yeah, I was
Remember,
like, am I gonna have to commentate for Rowdy? Because
you're going to need to get ready.
yeah.
Pardon me?
You remember your voice at NC is like
Yes.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it happens because you're commentating for 2 hours straight in the morning, 2 hours straight at night, talking to everybody, production meetings. Like no one talks that much in a day. And then
Yeah.
you do it for 9 days straight. Like
Yeah.
I even lose my voice and I don't commentate nearly as much as Rowdy.
Yeah, but you're talking to a lot. I mean, it's like Elizabeth walks into the room and it's everybody loves Raymond. I mean, it's like
She's
Or-
talking all day already.
I know.
or she's Norm at, you guys don't remember Cheers, but Norm at Cheers,
Yeah.
when he walks in the bar, Norm, everybody's going,
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah,
It's so funny. I just want to tag along behind her and say,
I
everybody
need,
gets.
I need to start like wearing a pin. Like I'm being silent right now to save my voice for broadcast.
That's why I'm saying you probably speak more than I do, just because what you're doing with your adoring fans.
Just a little
Walking in behind her would be worse because then it's like, it's Faisal and that guy.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, that's usually what you're right.
Yeah.
It's not.
All right.
Yeah,
Stop
it's worse.
gassing me up, you guys.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do for that, Rowdy? Like by day 4, are you like throat lozenges and like tea, or
Yeah, definitely. If I
Yeah.
feel like it's going on, if I don't feel like anything's going, I don't do anything, to tell you the truth. But if I feel a little hint of it, yeah, I'll save my voice outside the booth as much as possible. Hot tea, honey. Yeah, I throat lozenges. I do it all.
Yeah.
training? Can't get away from training.
Literally.
It's
All right.
funny. I think I've told you that. I can't remember what I've told you before, but up to this Olympics, this is my 8th Olympics with Dan, right? We started in '96, and I was trying to figure out how many races Dan and I have called together. And if you add up prelims and finals, it's 1,200 races.
Oh my God.
Stop.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
Oh my God.
That is a crazy
So-
stat.
Now you know why you can only say streamlined so many ways, right?
Right.
Right.
oh, Rowdy's saying streamline again. Well,
Yeah.
okay, I tried
Well,
to say it a couple other ways, but
yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're doing it 1,200 times, streamline is streamline,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There's
the
not-
source ends at some point.
It's not 1,200 synonyms for put your arms
For
above your head
streamline, yeah.
and get as narrow as
Right.
possible.
Right.
Wow.
Okay. This is Emily M. I guess this would be related to World Championships, or sorry, no, not. It's just outside of an Olympics. What is your favorite race to have called? So trials, worlds, whatever, like just not at the Olympics.
Well, and this is the honest to God truth. Elizabeth, 400 IM, World Championships, Shanghai.
Who paid you 2 off today? Gas me up.
Don't worry,
Who was it?
we're doing
I-
Beisel insult hour as soon as
Did
we
I
sign off
mention
with
you
Rowdy,
would-
so we'll start tearing
Did
you down.
Wait a second, hang on. Did I
The roast
mention
is next.
when I had like the greatest moments when people made the team? I didn't mention you
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah,
It
that's
was-
true.
It was so magical, mostly because of who you beat, but it was just so cool. It was one of the great moments of my broadcasting career, no doubt about it. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I think the most now it's my turn to gas you up, Rowdy, since we're all just doing this. Barbini, you're next. But I think like the most special thing about you, Rowdy, is that every single one of not just my races, but everybody's race that at least I know has been called by you. And so like you are forever attached to the most special moment in somebody's life. And there's no one more suited for the job than you. And it's so cool to also for me to be on the broadcast team and actually see what goes into a broadcast. Like I think before this, I kind of thought you guys just rolled up and looked at the heat sheets and were like,
Yeah.
oh, all right, cool. Like Elizabeth's in the 400 IM tonight. Like, let's hope I remember something about her. Like, no. Like,
Elizabeth B. Eisel.
yeah,
is some of the,
like
yeah.
it's down to pronunciations and walking the
Yeah.
pool deck and talking to coaches. It's
Mhm.
literally looking at their splits from their trials. Like there's so much detail and work and homework that goes into it that I've now been opened up to that's why you're the voice of swimming, because you do that. You make that extra effort. So it's cool that moment is special for you because that was one of my greatest swimming moments for myself. So
It was special for both of us then.
yeah.
It's such an important thing to keep in mind just in this world in general, though. And I remind our team of this all the time, that it's like, just because you've been to multiple of these, whether it's a worlds or trials or whatever, it's like, these are the most important moments of these kids' lives to this point for the most part.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
and it's like, even if you're fatigued and it's day 5 and it's prelims and they're going to make semis, like it's hard to like gin up that it's still the biggest swim of their life, and they deserve us from the like performance support side, but you guys also from the broadcast side to treat it as such. And I think that's what Baz is getting at, is that like you've always made it feel that way on the broadcaster people when they watch their races after the fact.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to end it. That was thank you, Rowdy. We'll see you in person in a couple days in Indy. Anything else you're looking forward to that we didn't touch?
I gotta find Beisel Street somewhere and take a picture with you though.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know. How cool. Rowdy, do you
I
have one?
know.
Yes.
Oh, I gotta find Rowdy Gaines Street.
Yeah.
For
No,
those
we
of you
gotta-
that are
we gotta-
listening, that
we gotta
all the
find
streets
that.
in Indianapolis have been renamed for swimmers, so
Yeah.
you can find, they're everywhere. I have the worst sense of direction in the world, and so I perpetually lost all anyway, and now the street names are named different, and I'm just like, I
You're
guess I'm
like,
just
I'm
gonna be
just-
lost
yeah.
for 3 weeks.
Yeah. I'm absolutely screwed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
All
thanks,
right,
Rowdy.
guys.
Really appreciate the time. And
You're the
we'll
best,
see you in
Rowdy.
a few days.
Love you guys. I'll see you in a couple days.
All right.
Love
thanks,
you,
man.
Rowdy.
Love you.
Well, thanks again to Rowdy. Basil, this is an annual for us, and it's one of my favorite discussions. I just like love talking to somebody that, I mean, if I'm being totally honest, loves swimming more than I do, and probably
Yeah.
more than anybody does, and has been in it for so long and has sort of lived the evolution of the sport in many ways over like decades. And it's such a what we were talking about at the end there with him being sort of the through line between people's careers, it's that he really is that like that thing that just transfers from generation to generation,
Yes.
and everybody's got memories of Rowdy, and like even me having never swum at this level, like it's like I still have memories of Rowdy, like watching on TV when Michael was swimming, and then getting to do this with him now. It's like it's just such a cool opportunity for us to get to talk to him every year before the biggest meet.
No, I know. And like that saying, the only constant is change.
Yeah.
And then asterisk and Rowdy Gaines. Like,
yeah.
like he is the one thing that is always guaranteed to be a part of your race.
Yeah.
And I think that's like kind of to the point that I made when we were filming with Rowdy is it's just so special because you know that when you're swimming a race and it's called by Rowdy Gaines, it's important. It means
Yeah.
something. It's monumental in your career. So it's cool that you and I have the opportunity to sit down with him, and he's such an easy interview because it's his job. Like he's
Yeah.
turning it around and asking us questions.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Every time. Yeah.
like classic
Yeah.
broadcaster.
Yeah.
But
Classic doesn't want to say anything, just wants to get information out of us.
right. And like also just one point about Rowdy as a human being, like I asked him, what's your favorite trials memory as an athlete and as a broadcaster? Not a single mention of something that he did.
Yeah.
Like that's Rowdy. He's so humble, like
Yeah.
hates the spotlight on him. And I think that's like we literally couldn't have a better person to be the voice of our sport and an ambassador for the sport.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
we're
thanks again to Rowdy. That was great. Basil, we are here. We are at the finish line. Like
Yeah.
it is all the times in these outros or even in the intros we've talked about. Like I've asked you as an athlete, what's it like, getting to X amount of days out? Like we're there now. It's like there are people arriving. The pool opens today. Today's Tuesday, the 11th. So the first people will be able to warm up.
That actually just gave me chills.
Oh, it's a long
Like,
time too to
truly.
be in town. Like, would you get to trials that early when you were swimming? Like
With Chuck, yes. We would
Yeah.
get to meets like 5 days, full 5 days early.
Oh.
Troy less. I think we would get there like 3 days before.
Yeah, it's just a lot of time in a hotel room to like think
Mhm.
about how nervous you're getting. I've always been more of a late arriver. If I
Yeah,
like,
I'd rather just
yeah.
yeah. But it's here, 15th through the
Here we are.
23rd, Lucas Oil Stadium.
USAswimming.org/trials tickets. Let's fill that building. As we
I know,
mentioned,
go get 'em.
it's large, but it's going to
Yeah.
be an incredible show. You don't want to miss it. Basil, I will see you on the deck in Indianapolis in 2 days.
I cannot wait, Barbini. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks, everybody.